third Marine Corps leadership trait is know your Marines and look out for their welfare. And this is all about putting others' interests above your own. It's also about taking care of discontent or disagreements, supporting people in their problems, being approachable, and encouraging people's development. The basic mindset of a leader is that the success of the group is your success. So why do so many people try to take the shortcut and impress people with the work that they're doing or the things that they're doing that don't really affect their people? I don't know why that is, but it's a basic mistrust of the idea that your group's success is your success, but it's the only way. In fact, if we were to stop here and say, all you need to do is focus down on making your people successful, you'd be about 80% of the way there. The only thing you would have to do in addition to that is give guidance and direction to make sure people are working on the right things at the right time so that all the work comes together and does what the group needs. Think about it this way. If you've got 5 people working for you and you've given them good guidance and you're there to support them and help them through their problems, you're not going to be able to replicate the amount of work and the quality of work, the detail that those 5 people are able to do. So if nothing else, just trust the fact that more is going to get done when you support people that way. So how do we do this? The starting point is that you as a leader, you have to spend your time with your people. It's not a matter of working what's on your desk and, the distant connection of how that work is going to affect your people. You have to physically look them in the eye, hear the tone of voice, and develop an appreciation for the things that are easy for them, or more importantly, the things that are difficult. And this is all the more important in a hybrid or remote environment. You're going to have to work extra hard to develop this appreciation of what they're up against. Leading in that environment, remote or hybrid, is actually much more difficult if you want to do it well. And if you do this, people are going to bring you what their challenges are. And what you need to do is keep an open mind, because it can be easy to chalk them up as petty or unimportant. But the key thing to realize is it's important to them. And when somebody brings you a problem, they're trusting that you're going to take it seriously and take action on it. But you do have a percentage of people that will complain about things that maybe aren't important. But the worst thing that you can do is treat everybody like that. So you can't wall yourself off because of a fear of too much time spent interacting with people. What you can do, though, when you are interacting is make sure that you're directing the conversation to what really is important to that person, but more importantly to the group. How do they contribute, and how do they help you get done what the team needs to get done? And if you do this, a lot of small concerns will eventually go away. They're never going to make it to your desk or make it to your attention. People will realize that you are going above and beyond to help them, and they're going to reciprocate by keeping some of those things off your plate as well. Again, it's an easy thing to assume that they won't do that they're just going to keep coming to you. And if they do that, then probably what you need to do is take a look at how you're handling those conversations. Are they drifting all over the place? And if they do, a little bit of drift is fine. But just get a focus back, like I was saying, what the team needs to get done and how they're part of their part of that is important. Just get the conversation back to what needs to be done to get the job done for the whole team, with them as part of it. But if you're still not convinced, the way I like to explain this to people is that if you're not approachable, if people don't feel like they can bring you things, and they won't bring them to you if they don't think that you're going to help. So if you find yourself with a severe lack of interaction like that, the way I like to think about it and coach people is you are living in a world of details that is not what people are really working on or really concerned with. So you're making decisions based off of a situation or several situations that really they're not reality for the people doing the work. So you have to have that good two-way communication, if for no other reason, so that you get good inputs and are able to make the decisions that you need to. And just add it up. If you have 5 people in your team and you've got them well guided and directed and supported, they're going to be able to create work, or they're going to be able to accomplish things at a greater volume and quality than you would ever be able to replicate. You're not going to be able to do the same work as those 5 people. And on top of that, if you can get them working together, it's only going to multiply. A very basic level, when you are spending time with your people and showing them that you're approachable, you're also showing them that your time, which they're going to assume you value, is being well spent on their concerns. And that's a really a reassuring and a complimentary attitude to have. They know you're busy. They know you have your own things to do. But when you spend your time on their concerns, that's giving a lot. Now, of course, the opposite is also true. If you don't, they're going to assume that what's on your plate is more important than what's on theirs. And you're going to get a gradual decreasing of emphasis and teamwork and participation. Again, take a look at the amount of information coming your way, and if it's slowly getting less and less, you have a problem on your hands, and you got to open that door back up, and invite some of that input in. And maybe you think that I do have an open door policy and I am approachable, but people just aren't bringing me things, and I ask for it, but they're still not bringing me things. And one possible, I would say, probably the reason that you're still not getting that amount of information is because you're not acting on it. If people are bringing you things, even if it's a small thing, you have to take some sort of action on it. In fact, when you're a new manager, new leader, you should be looking for those easy wins, they call them. Somebody brings you something, says we have a miscommunication here, or a break in the communication chain. That's a good, easy one to solve. And what you're doing is you're showing people that you're going to take action. So don't underestimate fixing seemingly small things like that. They could have a big impact, mean a lot to somebody. You have to have a feel for the morale of the group. Morale is defined as the confidence, enthusiasm, and discipline of a person or group at a particular time, according to Webster's. It's not whether people are happy. A lot of times we categorize or we define morale that way as if people seem happy, then the morale is high. Well, they may be happy about things that are non-productive. They may be happy with the fact that they can do whatever they want, and you let them. And they're just not focused on what the team needs to achieve. Confidence, enthusiasm, and discipline, all as they pertain to what the team needs to achieve. So how do you gauge somebody's confidence? The way you do that is by spending time with them in their work environment, seeing what they're working on, how they're working on it. Do they get things accomplished efficiently? And a really important part of that is recognizing when they exceed the standard. So what you don't want to do is, if somebody is just getting through the work, struggling, they're having a really tough time with it, you have to call it like you see it. You have to identify things that seem to be giving them trouble. You have to get on that and help them with that. But the other way you can really screw this up is by rewarding performance that does not meet the standard. You should reward work that exceeds the standard. So if somebody's supposed to get something done by Friday, it's fine to say, hey, nice job getting it done on Friday, but you want to be a little bit cautious of how loud you clap or how much you celebrate that, when in reality, when we say something's due on Friday, it just needs to be done. So you have to gauge that. With newer people, you might need to do a little bit more of that. But the general rule of thumb that I tell people is you want to reward superior performance. Encourage people, fine. But when you get into maybe even monetary rewards or formal recognition, it really should be reserved for people going above and beyond the call of duty. Because if you don't reward superior performance, if you're just kind of giving out ninth place trophies, that's kind of a popular way to say it, it doesn't mean anything to the people. And what you get is you thinking you're doing a great job, and they really just kind of are laughing about it. Something else that I think new managers or new leaders, or maybe it doesn't necessarily need to be a new to the position, but where do you draw the line on being informed or involved in people's personal lives? And the answer to that is that you have to first realize that people's personal lives do affect what they do at work. So a good example would be somebody that's getting married, say that, or they have a death in the family. You don't need to get in there and ask all kinds of details on what's going on, but you do need to be aware of that, because their mind is not entirely on their work. And we're all human. We're all at some point going to have that situation ourselves, or some situation that's kind of like that. And you're going to want people looking out for you as well. So really important, I think, that you need to know a fair amount of what people's personal lives are like. And I think those are two good examples, the relationships they're in, just to the extent of whether things are fine. You want to know things like family members, how they're doing. You want to know if they have kids, the ages of the kids, and maybe get into, as you start to build more trust between the two, you can get some more information on that, or they'll bring you more information. When you're new, you don't want to dive too deep in there. You want to kind of keep it surface level, just kind of get the basics of their setup. Something pretty harmless is how is your commute? Something just as simple as like that is like a good first step on building some of that trust between you and your people. But to think that there's total separation between personal and professional, I think that's kind of a thing of the past. As a concerned leader, you want to let people know that you're interested in as much detail as they want to tell you. That's fine. And if you can do this, to put it this way, if you're the opposite, if you don't have any interest in what people's personal lives are like, maybe you convince yourself that it's none of your business, you're going to be a pretty forgettable leader. Conversely, if you're somebody that is interested, not prying, but interested, you're going to be the kind of leader that people do remember. And not only that, getting back to what the amount of information people bring you, it's going to be more and more accurate because it's going to only help to build a trust between you two. And lastly, you need to encourage people about their future. So it's not about if somebody's an individual contributor in a role and maybe they've even been there for 10 years or more. You want to give them an assessment of where you see them being able to go. So you might have somebody that's middle-aged or even a senior employee. In fact, I had a guy that worked for me. He had been in the same role for pretty much for maybe 30 years. And we talked about things, and I was a director, and he decided that he wanted to give being a manager a shot, and he ended up being a really good manager. We spent a lot of time talking about what that looks like, and when he was the manager, spent a lot of time talking about how to handle certain situations. But if you don't suggest to people, and I would say, I was going to say it's more important early in the career, but I think it's important anytime. But particularly, people who are very ambitious, you want to give them an idea of what you think they are capable of in their future. And sometimes just putting that idea in their head is going to motivate them in ways you may not even know. I remember I was on a beach in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and I was a company commander, and my battalion commander mentioned to me that he thought I would be good in one particular job, following the job that I was already in. And it wasn't even on my radar to do that, but it ended up that I requested and was assigned to do that job that he suggested. And it was maybe a 2 or 3 minute discussion, but he made me think about it. It was somebody I respected. He pointed out a couple of reasons that he thought it was like that was the case, that I'd be good for it. And I went with it. And it really changed the rest of my career. I mean, my career would have went in another direction most likely, but I ended up having 3 great years in that role, and it really set the stage for a lot of things that I was able to do later on. So how does that sound? You may talk to one of your people and say, have you ever thought about being a supervisor? Or have you thought about being a manager? Have you ever thought about taking your professional engineering exam? Or going back to school, graduate school, maybe get an MBA. Just little suggestions like this, as long as they're sincere, people are going to appreciate it. But more importantly, they're going to take action on things. And if the comment is geared in a way that's really beneficial to that person in their career, they're going to attribute it back to you and making that suggestion in the first place. Sometimes people just have their head down, working as hard as they can. They're not thinking about that. Maybe they've had nobody in their past that has made those kind of suggestions to them. So be that person. And, if they don't go the route or the way you're suggesting, that's fine. But you are showing them that you're concerned about them and you think enough of them to make a kind of a ambitious recommendation on their behalf. They're going to think about it. So in closing, know your Marines and look out for their welfare. Know your people and look out for their welfare. It's not just about getting the job done, and I don't think anybody would say that, but it's not a matter of you'd say it or not. Do you act that way? So spend your time with your people, find out what they're up against, focus down on making them successful, and then give them some ideas to think about for the future. And you're going to be one of those leaders that they'll remember. If you or your managers need help developing these leadership traits, or just really anybody on your team, Happy to help. My information's in the profile. Thanks.